Yesterday, I was going through one of Neville's discussions, Brazen Impudence. And right away when I went through this discussion, what conjured up in my recollection was a book that I read a number of years ago called The Charisma Myth by Olivia Fox-Cabane. Over there, she helps us transcend past the idea that charisma is something that you either have or that you don't have. Over here, we realize that we become what we think about. And so if a person wants to become more charismatic or they want to be more self-confident, then they go through the process. And a large part of it is the internal work, as in how we think ourselves to be, the self-image and so forth. She narrowed down to three important areas: power, presence, and warmth. I want to touch upon this, and I want to weave it into today's conversation. Power means direction, clarity, vision, specificity. Presence means living in the now, realizing that all that exists is the eternal now. Thus, everything you need to bring forth your vision exists now. Warmth, which is lightheartedness, conviction, love. When we combine these three elements together, we relate it over to brazen impudence: direction, presence, deep integration, and lightheartedness. This is also how we remain in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, as Neville Goddard refers to, which is dwelling in the end. Sometimes I say it that way. And so in the start of his Brazen Impudence lecture, he said, "A new idea will not become part of your common currency of thought until it has been repeated over and over and you begin to live by it." Now let's go a little deeper into this, reflecting upon the power, presence, and warmth elements. So if a person can say to themselves that I desire to see a vision brought forth, or I commit to a goal, and remain committed, then they are in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If, for whatever reason may be, they find themselves reactive or interpreting reality from a place of, I don't believe that I'm going to bring forth what I desire, or some way, somehow, the information, the environments that present itself on the bridge of incidents, as he refers to, appears to, based on interpretation within, to hold a person back. If a person thinks of those kinds of things and believes reality to be from that perspective, then they are not practicing brazen impudence. So it may require a person to constantly revisit until they can remain in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That's why I recommend, ideally, to set up your day, morning routine, work day, end of day, in environments, in behaviors, in experiences, in any kind of internal plus external stimulus to the subconscious to be in harmony with the vision. One does not have to be perfect with this, but the better we get at it, the more we automatically reflect a deep level of presence, a deep level of warmth, which is essentially lightheartedness, and maintain that direction automatically. So when he's referring to repeated over and over, we can look at it from the perspective of the different things that contribute to maintaining the same thought process, which is, I'm going to maintain the vision, without necessarily saying to themselves, I'm going to maintain the vision. It is implied by their experiences, the circumstances, the environments, and the conscious reflection and the internal process, and valuing the internal process that we talked about in the last video, stages of the alchemical process, so that a person becomes one with the vision, love. So this is also referred to, as we say, dwell in the end of the ideal existence. So he stated, in the book of Luke, the story is told of a man who came into a house at the midnight hour and said, "A friend has arrived who is hungry. Would you let me have 3 loaves of bread?" The man upstairs replied, "It is midnight. My children are in bed, asleep, and I cannot come down and give you what you want." Then this sentiment is made. But because of the man's importunity, he was given all that he desired. The word importunity means brazen impudence. Having a desire, the man would not take no for an answer. Now, this is very valuable on the journey, because when we commit to a journey to bringing forth a vision, we can externalize different interpretations that are within ourselves, in which we see it as a no for an answer. The perfect example for this is in the world of sales and business. One of my favorite things to do is work with salespeople, because what we do is we integrate this Neville Goddard-based information, like brazen impudence. And what it does is it transcends them from the limitations and thus increases their sales, because they're able to overcome objections in which they interpret them as a no. For example, a person might show up to a session, a consultative advisory session with a prospect, have a conversation with them in which they know that the value that they are providing is the ideal value for the prospect. As the conversation plays out, the prospect reveals things that they have not seen as a harmonious connection between the product that is being offered or the service that is being offered and the results that the client will receive as a result of working with the product or service. And the individual sales rep concludes that offer is not good enough, the product is not good enough, they're not good enough, and so forth. They're creating in their own mind this idea of no, and it is externalizing as how they're interpreting what the person is saying. So thus we want to be aware of our interpretations, or as he calls it, the assumptions that we have. And we want to understand a few things. We want to ensure that we have and maintained ourselves to be in the ideal reality that is reflective of the vision. As we've been discussing, we look at it from the perspective of creation is complete, and all potentialities exist in the eternal now. And we decide where to go based on our interpretations within, and it plays out in theater. So a person imagines themselves to be in the reality prior to leaving their office to go to the prospect site. And maybe they maintain that state of mind, or in NLP, we call this frame. And when they get to the client's site, they may start to feel reactive or tension because they're imagining the scenario to go out in a way that will be less than ideal. They are not practicing brazen impudence, which is a combination of power, presence, and warmth. So we want to bring ourselves back into it. So how does a person bring themselves back into it? Well, there's a few ways. Number one is to imagine what would imply that it would be successful prior to going in. So in other words, rather than seeing it from the perspective of, I'm not going to get the deal, see it from the perspective of, I'm going to go in there and get the deal. Or I'm going to go in there and gather valuable data to optimize my products or services so that I could put together better sales presentations. Or I could optimize in some shape or form, and thus everything is moving me forward towards my vision. Then a person does not externalize the no's within and assume it to be the answer. So what does it feel like? Have fun, flow, joy, embody the naturalness of the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Maintain it. Another thing we want to do is we want to identify the limiting interpretations, assumptions that we have on the journey. And we want to note these things down. So if you're going to a prospecting site and you're having these disempowering, limiting interpretations within yourself, about yourself in relation to the person, then you want to note these things because these interpretations is what's causing the unnecessary friction and tension, which is causing us to go into different states of mind. And then what we do is we change the meaning. You can find the meaning by watching inspirational videos on YouTube. There's certainly a lot of different videos talking about how very proficient salespeople see objections. They offer different perspectives. You could read books. You can have conversations with people that you see have the success. They are mentors. And what you do is you adopt their beliefs. You adopt their assumptions. And as you integrate with these assumptions by working with them via subconscious work, one thing to think about it logically, consciously. It's another thing to have it go into the subconscious, doing the subconscious work. You begin to live from those perspectives. So, a few things to ease our mind on this journey, as we've been sharing. You can imagine yourself into a reality. You can think yourself into a reality and know that all realities exist. If it did not exist, you would not have had the idea, the perspective. And what you want is a reality where everything is in harmony, which, by the way, is the end result of the business success or the sales success. And this is the journey that we're talking about that wills the way. So we maintain this brazen impudence, which again is a combination of power, presence, and warmth. Power being the direction, as in we're continuing on this direction and we're not giving up. Presence meaning we are valuing the journey and the experiences and learning from them, seeing this as part of the internal process of self-realization and evolution. And we're lighthearted about it because if we're lighthearted about it, then we're less likely to be reactive. And if we are reactive, we may interpret the different experiences that we're having from a place of no. Going deeper into this understanding of what he means by man who would not take no for an answer. The no for an answer are the interpretations within that are externalizing during the interactions in the theater that we're playing out with the prospects when they give the objection. The objection is an opportunity for optimization, and also we say in sales, to help overcome the objection by helping them connect their belief systems, their ideas and interpretations, our beliefs, our ideas and interpretations, and relate it over to the benefits, the results, the value that they receive via the bridge of our product or service. Now, this reminds me of a quote from James Allen's As a Man Thinketh. So I want to reflect upon it because the moment that I went through this discussion that Neville had shared with us on brazen impudence, and I was stimulated in my mind to reflect back on what I had learned, which I had been integrating since I read that book, The Charisma Myth, I also was stimulated to think about a quote that James Allen shared in his book, As a Man Thinketh. So let's go through this because this holds further insights and perspectives of how we can further integrate this understanding of brazen impudence. So he says, only by much searching and mining are gold and diamonds obtained, and man can find every truth connected with his being, if he will dig deep into the mine of his soul, and that he is the maker of his character, the molder of his life, and the builder of his destiny. He may unerringly prove, if he will watch, control, and alter his thoughts, tracing their effects upon himself. So we're talking about effects upon ourselves, and he also says upon others, and upon his life and circumstances, linking cause and effect by patient practice and investigation. How does a person actually dwell with this kind of patience and allow them to investigate the cause and effect relationships, cause within and external effects? It is through presence. We also call this mindfulness, deep presence, the ability to cause and effect reflect. And what I like to do is note these things, not necessarily while I'm interacting with the person, but after the meeting. That was one of the practices that I did in sales for a long time, was after each session with the prospect, I would take about 2 or 3 notes of different reactivity-based interpretations. And also, I would further affirm the ideal things that I was doing. So let's say I was developing a higher degree of presence. What you can actually do, which was really helpful, which I was doing for many years, is you can relate it back to the power, presence, and warmth. You could say, was I on point with power? Was I on point with presence? Was I on point with warmth? And if not, what were the interpretations? Write down the interpretations. No need to judge them. Later on, you can change how you relate to them. You can change the interpretations through your research, find the accurate interpretations, and identify with them. And to continue, he says, he may unerringly prove, if he will watch, control, and alter his thoughts, tracing their effects upon himself, upon others, and upon his life and circumstances, linking cause and effect by patient practice and investigation, and utilizing his every experience, even to the most trivial, everyday occurrence, as a means of obtaining the knowledge of himself, which is understanding, wisdom, power. In this direction, as in no other, is the law absolute, that he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be open. For only by patience, practice, and ceaseless importunity can a man enter the door of the temple of knowledge. Now, this is related because, and we've been discussing in the last video, is that the journey is as valuable as the destination. The journey provides these interpretations that we are having within ourselves so that we can change them to bring forth a higher degree of this brazen impudence, which is a combination of power, direction, deep presence, and warmth. And as a result of it, we maintain this ideal state of mind that is one with the vision. So Neville states, think of something lovely you would like to give to another. Then ask of yourself, if you give it to him and he wouldn't accept it, would you want to keep it for yourself? If, for instance, you gave a friend $1 million and he would not accept it, would you be willing to keep it? I'm sure you would. Then imagine giving the money to him. Then give to others in the same way. You may not even have a bank account, but you can still give because there is no one to give to but yourself. So this ties into his concept of everyone is you pushed out and the perspective of treating everyone the way you would want to see yourself, because the way we relate to others is how we relate with ourselves. And in relation to this particular point, and tying it back to our example with the prospecting, we want to understand that the value that we provide is the value that they want to receive. It is the assumption that you already have the value. It is through the assumption that the theater is playing out through the journey of entrepreneurship or sales. It's a form of theatrical play in order to exchange your value and to receive what you say is return on value, which is the money that they give you. Now, this is something that we can practice. So if we relate to what he's saying here, would you give unto another what you would give unto yourself? A person goes in, they believe in their product or service. They want to give it to another because they know that the value is there. And if they receive what they interpret as rejection, they want to reflect back as to what is being rejected. When they deeply analyze this rejection, they'll see that a lot of times they are rejecting themselves based on interpretations that they're having prior to the interaction that plays out during the interaction with the individual. And this is fine. We don't need to shame ourselves or beat ourselves up. We just need to value the journey and see this as opportunity so we can change the internal relationships in regards to those elements that we find during the process. Which is why I always recommend placing yourself in challenging situations like this, because it is like looking in the mirror and revealing what's within ourselves. As James Allen has stated, that in this direction, as in no other, is the law absolute, that he that seeketh findeth. So we're seeking it through the experience and finding it within ourselves. This is very important to understand. And this is how we open what he refers to as the door of the temple of knowledge, and then you get into more deeper understandings, that you always had the answer within yourself. And the answer is revealed on the journey. And the way to reveal these answers is through the presence and through the warmth of connection between you and your relationship with the prospect. You see it from a place of love. And the power is the direction of the spirit of harmony, benefit for you, others, divine, and evolution, which is actually what you committed to in relation to what you desire to see brought forth, the vision. Now, in relation to that, we go back to the premise and weave it all together. He stated, a new idea will not become permanent of your common currency of thought until it has been repeated over and over and you begin to live by it. So this entire process that we're discussing in this video in relation to the example of prospecting when it comes to sales is essentially maintaining and valuing the journey, and thus maintaining this feeling of the wish fulfilled by valuing the different theatrical experiences, or as he refers to as the bridge of incidents, that plays out on the journey to the realization of the vision. And a person is excited then about any kind of objections that they get. They're motivated by it. Thus, they have a deep level of appreciation for their prospects, and thus a deeper level of warmth. They enjoy the journey, so they have a deep presence. And they have direction because they're orienting themselves over to the vision. They're not swaying from the vision. As a matter of fact, they're getting deeply integrated with it, and thus it is being repeated over and over again until a person begins to live by it and makes that state of mind an identity, which again is reflective of the vision. So let's weave this together into an affirmation. We can say, I realize that I have the power, the presence, and the warmth to bring forth my vision. It is revealed in each interaction that I have with each person. Through the direction of maintaining the focus to my vision, what is being revealed via the presence is contributing to my vision. It reveals my thinking, and I warmly understand the person that helps contribute to reveal my thinking. And I warmly understand myself as I find the accurate meaning. As I accept the accurate meaning, I'm able to maintain a higher degree of power. I value being in the now and having a deep level of presence. And through this journey, I maintain a higher degree of lightheartedness through the warmth that I express. This is an embodiment of love, and as a result, I maintain my ideal state of mind that is one with my vision. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.